living by yourself is tough, but it's so worth it. I'm going to tell you why. So, to start off, I've been living alone for almost 4 years now in a foreign country. I won't tell you where. I'll leave that as a mystery. But I'm living in a country where people do not speak English. Well, majority of people do not speak English. And I'm not surrounded by other locals. And aside from that, it's okay. You kind of get used to your being in your own presence after a while, you know. But the things that get tough is you feel loneliness, and you also have to do everything by yourself. You gotta wash your clothes. You gotta make your food. You gotta get your ass to the gym. You gotta get your ass to work. You gotta deal with mechanical issues with your car by yourself for the most part, unless you have insurance or whatever. But any problem that you face, you gotta deal with it alone. You know, if you're sick, no one is there to comfort you. You have to figure out a way on how to get better quick, fast, right? So you gotta prioritize your health. You gotta prioritize, you know, your grooming skills. You know, you gotta groom yourself well. You gotta prioritize how you eat. You gotta eat well. You gotta sleep well. You don't have someone behind you telling you what you should be doing. You just completely rely on yourself. And sometimes it can be hard, because sometimes you fall off track a little bit, or sometimes you struggle real hard one day and you don't have anyone there to support you. You know, no one's there to pat you on the back or tell you to keep going. You gotta tell yourself to keep going, even when shit gets tough. And it does. I'm telling you, it does, especially when you live alone. And I think the hardest thing about being alone is not having all the responsibilities that you gotta do yourself. I think it's the battle in your mind. Like, the thoughts that go through your head day in and day out. Like, the shit, like, just the overall battle in your head. And, like, you start talking to yourself eventually. Like, I've noticed I started talking to myself eventually, like, when I'm by myself. I think that's, like, the biggest struggle, man. Is, like, when you're by yourself, you don't have someone to interact with or socialize with or tell someone about your problems or whatever. You only have yourself. And if you don't find an outlet to let it out or tell somebody, you just get stuck in your head sometimes, you know. And sometimes, you know, all it takes is one thought. You know what? Today I'm not gonna go to the gym because I don't feel good. And then you don't go to the gym, but then you regret it afterwards. So you're like, oh man, like, I should have gone to the gym. I should have worked out. I would have felt a lot better. Like, those types of little battles that happen in your head all the time when you're by yourself. Like I said, no one's there to push you. Mommy and daddy ain't there anymore, you know. When you're by yourself, it's a mental game, bro. It's a mental game with yourself, you versus you. And the thing is, you're gonna get tired. You're gonna get really tired mentally, but you gotta keep going, bro. You're gonna get tired of constantly having to make your food and eat home-cooked meals. You're gonna get tired of constantly pushing your ass to the gym all the time or getting exercise. You're gonna get tired of, at a certain point, of constantly sleeping early and then waking up early to get shit done. Things that you don't want to do, but you know you have to do it. And the thing is, you're doing this all by yourself. When you're a kid, you have your mom or your dad to push you to get shit done. Oh, do your homework, go to bed by this time, eat your vegetables. But when you're by yourself, you have the choice. You have the free will to whether or not you want to eat healthy or just go out and get something to eat from the outside food, right? Like pizza or burgers. You have that freedom, and with freedom comes also happiness too. Like, I don't regret at all choosing to live on my own. I don't regret it at all. Yes, you do miss out on certain milestones in other, you know, like your loved ones' lives because you're not there. You know, especially if you live far away. You may miss birthdays. You may miss hospital visits. You may miss, someone must have gotten sick, or worse, someone must have passed away and you weren't there when they passed away. These things can happen too. And then you start getting into your head a lot, right? But I feel like the pros outweigh the cons when you live alone by yourself. You have peace of mind. You have the free will. And when you get the things done that you don't want to get done on a daily basis, day in and day out, you develop a sense of mental resilience. You become confident in yourself. You know, you don't rely on anybody. And not relying on anyone is the best feeling, bro. even if you're struggling in life, even if you're going through shit, you have to be stuck in that shit for a while in order to gain grit and willpower and mental strength. You can't always expect someone to pull you out of that dark hole all the time. You know, sometimes we get trapped in this habit of constantly relying on people whenever we're in trouble, financially or physically or whatever. We're constantly relying on people for help. But when you're by yourself, you only have to rely on yourself for those problems. You have to be the one to deal with it. You have to be the one to physically take your ass to see the doctor when you're feeling sick. Or you can just take care of yourself at home by making some home remedies or something. You got to be the one to make money to survive. You're not relying on anyone to make money. You know, if you're that type of person, you're not accepting money from people or anything like that. You got to be the one to make the decision in that instead of me watching dirty movies and stuff like that, I want to go for a run or exercise instead of watching dirty pornography online, which will ruin your whole entire freaking day and your energy levels. You got to be the one to make all of these decisions, and micro decisions add up. You know, the small decision of deciding to sleep a little bit early at 9 o'clock instead of 10 o'clock makes a big difference in your energy, and if you're consistent with it. The small difference in adding broccoli into your lunch or your dinner makes a huge difference instead of fried potatoes or something like that. This small micro changes in your life, which only you made the choice to do by yourself, makes a huge difference in the quality of your life. If you were to live with people, maybe you have to rely upon their cooking, right? Whatever they make, you just eat it because it's there and you're hungry. But sometimes that food may not be healthy for you. But if you live by yourself, you have the choice to make your own food. You know what's going into your body, and you know you can make healthy food. You know you have to. Or you could go out and eat shit. It's up to you. It's your choice. It's all your choice when you're by yourself. But sometimes I've noticed that when you live by yourself and you have an abundance of decisions that you got to make by yourself, you feel mentally drained. And I felt mentally drained many times. Even to this day, I still feel it sometimes. Where I just want to, as soon as I finish work, I just want to go home and just freaking sleep. Just wait until the next day. I'm just like super mentally exhausted from the week. Right? Sometimes you have those days, and that's okay to admit that. I admit that. You know, I admit the fact that sometimes I have days where I need freaking a whole day to rest. Like I need like freaking 12, 13 hours of sleep. I'm not gonna lie. I need that sometimes. Not 6 to 8 hours. You know, sometimes I get the long ass hours of sleep in, and then I feel refreshed and energized the next day. But when you're by yourself too, you don't have to be responsible for other people. You don't have to be able to take care of other people around you. So you have the time to take care of yourself, right? And you also save money when you're by yourself as well. In a way, you do. When you save money, you can live. When you live by yourself, you can live frugally because you don't have dependents that you need to pay for. You don't have kids or anything like that, or a wife or something that you need to take her out on dates or outings or whatever. Kids, you need to take them. You need to make food for them. You need to buy their clothing. You need to buy their school supplies. You need to do all that stuff. But when you're by yourself, you don't have any of those responsibilities. Maybe you have a pet. Maybe that's your only responsibility that you need, dependent that you need to take care of. But that's aside from the fact that when you live by yourself, it comes with a lot of challenges, and it also comes with a lot of opportunity for you to get better. You know, you should utilize that time by yourself, living on your own, to get better, to level up in life. This is your chance to level up in life. Because sometimes when we are constantly surrounded by people, when we're living with others, maybe we don't have that opportunity as often enough to work on ourselves, to grow. Because we're surrounded by other people's types of energy levels, you know, and other people's mentality and mindset that can also rub onto you. And when that rubs off onto you, you start becoming like them, and you have you have a very low opportunity to be open-minded and think of new ideas and be creative or try to change the dynamic of your life, because you're surrounded by people who want to be like you, want you to be like them, or maybe they don't, but you just end up being like them because you're surrounded by them. So yeah, everyone needs to live alone at some point in their life, man. You need to be able to you need to have that ability to deal with challenges on your own, deal with hardship, deal with being sick by yourself and having to deal with that shit by yourself. Dealing with financial problem, dealing with conflict by yourself, not having other people to back you up and say something in your say for you. You got to speak up for yourself and deal with the shit yourself. This is what builds confidence. This is what builds maturity as well. You want to become more mature, live by yourself. Because that way you have all the responsibilities that a normal person would have, like bills and taking care of your health and shit like that. You got to do everything yourself. You got to do the laundry. You got to clean your bed sheets. You got to freaking clean the house. You got to wash your dishes. You got to take a shower every day so you smell good. You got to do all this by yourself. You know what I mean? You got to do all these things by yourself. And that makes you, honestly, over time, a much stronger individual. And at a certain point, you're going to start realizing that, what? I don't need anybody in my life. I don't need anyone to make me happy. I don't need anyone to make me feel fulfilled. You're going to start thinking this way after a certain period of time of living by yourself. You're going to feel this way. You're going to feel lonely, but you're also going to feel a strength, an inner strength inside you that was always there, that has finally been released. And there's nothing wrong with that type of mentality where you say you don't rely on anybody, or you don't want to, you don't need anyone to make you happy. There's nothing wrong with that. It's maybe at a certain point in your life, when you've leveled up so much by yourself, then you're going to seek out somebody to amplify your happiness, to amplify that your fulfillment in your life. You know what I mean? But before that, you got to be able to seek that out yourself, by yourself, alone, in order to improve and get better. You got to do that shit by yourself. No one's going to come save you. No one's coming to save you, bro. Especially when you're in your mid-20s, late 20s, and early 30s, when life's starting to get serious, when you're starting to have bills on your hands, and you're starting to maybe you purchased a house by yourself. Maybe you're having all of these responsibilities, bro. You gotta be able to deal with that shit and develop mental resilience. A lot of people, bro, they've never had the chance to live alone. I know so many of my friends that, they've never ever lived alone, yet alone even lived abroad, which is even a step further. Pretty much all of my friends have never ever lived alone. Some of them have lived alone for maybe a couple of weeks when their parents were away, but that doesn't count. Living alone for a long period of time, and you have to deal with all the responsibility yourself. Majority of people have never experienced that in their life. They just jump from one milestone to another. Oh, okay, I just got married. I'm gonna move. My wife's gonna move in with me in our new house, so we're gonna be together. We're gonna go travel together on our honeymoon, and we're gonna go on more vacations together. Then we're gonna have kids. But you never in your life ever had the opportunity to live by yourself. Everyone needs to experience this. As I said, like, everyone needs to experience loneliness. Everyone needs to experience solitude, long periods of solitude. Everyone needs to experience responsibility for yourself and only yourself. And you need to be selfish at a certain point in order to be selfless to others. I'm going to say that again. You need to be selfish at a certain point in order to be more selfless to others, right? By improving yourself, by understanding and knowing yourself, by prioritizing yourself, by having responsibility just for yourself, you're able to understand the idea of how to take care of somebody else. You understand that you are able to rely upon yourself when shit goes south. Because shit will go south. But if you never experienced being by yourself for a long time, how the hell are you going to live? How the hell are you going to function in society? It doesn't work that way. It doesn't. Anyways, thank you for watching.